There we go. Things are mostly working. But welcome to Transporter Room 3. This week we are going to be discussing Star Trek The Next Generation Season 3 Episodes 9, The Vengeance Factor, and 10, The Defector. But who are we that will be discussing this? I'm Natalie, also known as Dark Aardvark. You can find me on Twitter at Dark_Aardvark. It is the best place to keep up with me and all that I do. We started this little show because I decided to watch a cartoon, Star Trek Lower Decks, and didn't really... I knew zeitgeisty Star Trek things, but I didn't really ever watch any of it. But liked the cartoon and wanted to get the jokes, and so started watching The Next Generation and talking about it. And I am joined by with Robin and Hope. But let's start with Robin this week. A little bit about yourself and where we can find you if you'd like.
Okay. My name is Robin. You can find me on Twitter. That's the easiest place to find me as well. Kaika C. I think Thursday night you can find me on Milady Saito's channel as we finish up what was supposed to be a one-session one-shot run by Aniki Tony. And then on Saturday, right? This Saturday, I think is going to be the series finale on Milady Saito's channel of Sandos of Time. So a lot of things to get wrapped up in 3 hours, and we are not known for moving quickly, so we'll see how that goes. But I got a boyfriend to save, so it'll happen.
Well, even you know that ice demon's coming from the north. What direction are you from us?
Oh, sorry, didn't catch all that. Even if it takes us 9 hours to finish it, we're gonna see it through. But then normally you can find me on Wednesday nights on my latest house channel, and here I started watching Star Trek with my parents when I was a kid, The Next Generation. I saw some of the episodes, and but I didn't really see all of Star Trek The Next Generation until I about a year and a half ago when I did a complete rewatch with my roommate. But Natalie's descriptions were very entertaining. So when she asked if I wanted to be on the show, I was like, I sure do. And now I have watched all of Lower Decks, and I'm ahead of Natalie in watching Lower Decks. So I win again, I guess, is what I'm saying.
There we go. Winner, winner. Star Trek replicator dinner. As long as what you want doesn't violate the dietary guidelines set forth for you by some mysterious dietary food replicator. I don't know. Anyway. Hope, a little bit about yourself and your history with Star Trek, where we can find you, if you would like.
Sure. You can find me at HopeTracy71 on Twitter, and Monday nights on Milady Saito's channel and for a little while, Friday nights on Milady Saito's channel up until the end of February, where we're playing a 4-women's game. I suspect that you all on Saturday are going to maybe run into the ice demon that Tia banished, which has to again travel down to find her. So good luck with that. I too watch Star Trek with my family, all crowded onto a couch, all 5 of us. Not all of it, but enough to join the Star Trek fan club when I was in high school with my friend for one entire meeting. For sort of, I understand enough to get the memes and follow a plot and to know a few little spoilers for Natalie coming up. So.
Oh no, spoilers.
I've been really enjoying watching somebody else see it for the first time.
Well, that's good. So the first episode for tonight is episode 9 of season 3, The Vengeance Factor. This episode starts off very green and doesn't look it didn't feel like Star Trek The Next Generation to me for a little bit, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the science is a little harder.
I mean, I'm not against it. It just seemed different. I do think it is kind of foolish. Like, it's weird to me that Dr. Crusher has no reaction to like the signs of life call out from Data. Like, lady, that's probably a kind of a big function of why you're down there. So maybe I don't know.
You mean as a doctor, a medical doctor?
Yeah. Maybe pay a little more attention to that call out. I don't know. I also I don't know, maybe I'm just difficult to please today, but the Gatherers for the name of the group, I was just kind of like, really? Like, they're from the Akamar system, which makes sense. It sounds sci-fi-y and stuff, but then they're just like the Gatherers, like
PR. They can't be the scavengers. That's not very cool. They're not righteous. It's not honorable. They're gatherers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to use the scavengers because that was somebody else was using it.
Maybe, I don't know. It just seemed very.
I agree. It was a weird choice. I don't know.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a suggestion. It made me better name.
Well, it set me up for like. So where are the hunters? Like
yeah, for sure.
It was part of it.
And aren't they more like the hunters if they're going out there and like if they're being aggressive and stealing? Like the gatherers.
Kinda. Yeah, I would. Anyway. I would think the gatherers. I mean, or the gatherers might be like steal things, but like they wouldn't be quite as. I think of the hunters.
It'd be more passive. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It'd be more like cat burglar than like highwayman sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that Riker doesn't show us a kitchen. That would have been fun. But that is probably the most seductive way anybody has ever said 5 degrees in like the history of the English language. Like I can't remember.
Who says the metric system isn't sexy?
Base 10. Wow.
I guess it depends on how much you care about physics. I like it. I like the metric system.
I like it too.
Yeah. I don't know. I mentioned this in Twitter, but I don't know. There was something about this episode that it felt very season 1-y to me, in some ways. I mean, like a better episode from season 1, but
yeah. But I think the whole business with the what's her name? Like the counselor? What do they call her? I can't remember.
Oh.
The ambassador or whatever.
You mean the prime minister or whatever?
Yeah, well, I can't remember what her honorific was, but like that lady.
I can't either.
She was like, I can't name it, but I think I can trace back like the season 1-ness feeling.
I think there's also just something, and this I think I also mentioned that this to me felt like it had some Orientalist vibes in the sense of like. I don't know, like it felt like these guys were a stand-in for like Arabs essentially.
Yeah, after you mentioned the Orientalism vibes, I can see a reading of the Uda character too, where she's sort of like a geisha.
Yeah, or like yeah. I guess I meant Orientalist like in the kind of the Edward side sort of way of like anything that's basically east of Western Europe becomes like the other,
fetishized or like
fetishized,
exotic
in a sense. And like in that sense, like I God love Patrick Stewart, but he like doesn't help as feeling like as easily sliding into the role of a British Empire.
It's hard to be that aggressively English and not give
exactly
off colonized vibes. Everyone in the situations,
yeah. And I think the other thing that was sort of season 1-y about it was just having the Federation be so like unequivocally like the civilized group coming in and making these guys all come to the table and play nice. I don't know, like it.
They're the white knights.
He did show up and essentially like ask the favor, which I liked. Sort of like, hey, can you take care of this so we don't have to do it the bad way. I like that all the negotiations were difficult and no one was passionless about them. Like, they were all kind of touchy, all of them.
Yeah, for sure. It
yeah,
felt...
no, I don't think it's a terrible episode or anything, but there were things about it that were like that felt, I don't know, like had some of the black and whiteness, I guess, from like I associate with earlier seasons that I feel like they get away from a little bit more with some of the stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's I don't know, what did you there's some more awkward cishet romance.
Yeah.
In this one, I mean, part of that's delivered by the cultural difference, I suppose, where like she was ordered to go hang out with him by her boss, so that's kind of like a, you know, we need the diplomatic stuff to go right, so you go be, you know.
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah. A little bit. I mean, but God bless Riker for... Yeah. Emphatically like, stating... and
I'm not into this.
Not diving into it.
I don't know why I was surprised, but I was pleased and surprised when he said that.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of skipping around, but a
little bit.
For some reason, I did like. I shouldn't have, but for some reason, I liked what's his face hassling Wesley. I don't know why.
Wesley was being a classist little fuck.
The con, I really liked what he's like. Just like, you're driving the ship.
A child, yeah.
Like, it was a character revelation for Wesley, and I don't like. I'm not surprised or angry about it. So I thought it was a good character moment for him when they were in 10 Forward and talking about the math, where he was like just totally not comprehending this other guy who was just trying to like, I have a kid. This is a kid. I can identify with him as a father. And Wes was just like, I cannot even begin to understand who you are, what you want, because I'm stuck where I am.
Well, it's very teenager.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of one reveal that I liked about, what is his name? Rule. Okay. With a B. Okay. Was that like part of his relationship with Wesley was informed by the fact that he like actually had a kid who was about Wesley's age, which I thought was kind of a fun and interesting, like, yeah, like as you were saying, Hope, like I kind of am relating to you as like a father, like who is like sort of like, oh, this is an odd cultural thing that apparently you have 16-year-olds driving your fanciest spaceships.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if that was like the writers, because it's season 3. I'm sure people had heard, like, I'm sure people involved in the show had heard some sort of like push back on Wesley at this point in time, because from my understanding it was sort of immediate, you know. Or very early in season 1 anyway. So part of me wonders if that was like, you know, to people on the inside sort of like
calling it out,
or like having fun with it or whatever. I don't know. I just wondered if it was like the writer's room essentially referencing that sort of thing. But it also delivers a lot of depth to the character very quickly in a very
I guess
nice,
somebody who's just
efficient television way. Yeah,
has so much authority with his like his traveling group, you know, like obviously there's a larger group and they've been sent out on assignment, which is why he doesn't have his child with him, which is kind of civilized, you know.
Yeah,
that's one of the signals in other sci-fi that a group is less civilized when they bring their children on raiding parties, because they're endangering their children and teaching them young to be brutal. And this was sort of an indication like, no, we leave our kids at home until they're ready.
Yeah.
Unlike the Federation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who drags them? You know what? That's true. They're making that point whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah. But he was sort of out of place when it was just him without his men. Like, well, I was cool a minute ago.
Well, he sent them away, and then he was able to be like, it was like, the frat house toxic masculinity bullshit. And then when he sent them away, it was like he put on his like little reading glasses and like decided like have tea with the, I don't want to say adults, but the adults. I sugarcoat it. Yeah.
But yeah, all of the Utah stuff was uncomfortable, but it was supposed to be.
It was.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, it was okay. I would totally rock her outfit and her hairstyle, though.
I don't know. Again, this is really skipping around, but I I still thought it was like interesting or funny, like that we find out at the end that she's basically Black Widow, like not just in terms of being an assassin, but like
and by her family too. Yeah.
But apparently doesn't age. Like,
yeah, they really skipped over that. They're like, oh yeah, I got some like, they reconfigured my atom, so I didn't like. Why don't they fucking do that for everybody? Like, is it really expensive? Did y'all have to like pool in your allowance money?
It just was like, it seems like
the technology's lost now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed like, this seems like it should have been more of a point, like, in the thing, as opposed to just like, because I had forgotten about that completely, and I like, even watching it a second time, I was like, I thought it was going to be like, no, that was like my mom, we just look a lot alike or something like that, and then they're like, nope, she just doesn't age, and I'm like, oh well, that seems like technology.
It seemed like quite a leap.
Yeah.
For them to all go to so quickly. Like,
it would be really reasonable if it was her mom,
Yeah.
But I think they had to like the second, like let the other shoe drop about how much she was modified. Like when they first said like, oh, I can't feel, pain or not pain, but pleasure or happiness anymore. Like, oh, fine, okay, they zapped her brain or something. That's reasonable. It happens. Brain injuries can turn that off. So in order for it to be like, yes, I was absolutely modified, they had to give another bit of evidence. But like, they could have made her really fast or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. I mean, like, and even the like, the poison essentially that she uses to kill the one guy, like that to me sort of made sense, because I was like, okay, if you're in a culture that has advanced technology, but it's very family clan oriented, like I could see how you would develop a technology that can target specific, like
it's a great weapon for specifically a blood feud, like
exactly. Like I get how that would be developed, but like the anti-aging thing just seems like, why aren't you exporting that everywhere across the universe?
Shit. Like if nothing else, if not an altruistic way, just like come to our health spas where our patented, molecular reassignments will.
I mean, unless it is like one of those things where like the anti-aging and the sort of emotion dampening, like they go together or something like that.
True, like maybe the downsides are big enough.
The stress doesn't like cut your telomeres as bad or something if you can't feel a lot.
But I'm sure there would still be a market for it, even with the upfront caveats.
But I don't know, to get back to Hope's point, like I did like one thing. I did like where it felt less season one was actually like when Chorgon and what was her name again?
Uda.
No, the actual
I don't remember that.
The boss lady.
I'm just proud I remembered the other lady's name.
But when they were meeting and they were really starting to haggle over like important issues that seemed like they would be relevant. I did like their meeting when it was like,
she got really invested in having them home, like over the course of the voyage there, and it was her losing her temper was like just a really interesting point. Like, oh, this really matters to you. You can't just walk away from this, and it's not about the rating. Like, she obviously wanted them to come reincorporate.
It did seem a little like she went a little from like against it to like just kind of almost making Picard seem like a cult figure. Sort of thing. Like, her turnaround seemed quick and complete.
Well, maybe it was just a lack of resources that
I mean, it could have been too. Yeah, I might have just
Sovereign Maruk.
Ah, Maruk. There we go.
Sovereign Maruk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it had been 18 years, which is weird because, like, how long had she been ruling? Like.
Yeah, that was sort of unclear to me too.
It had only been 100 years ago that they had come to peace.
The Civil War sort of ended, yeah.
How many sovereigns in between then and now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I need these details.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, mister.
Yeah, and I also was not like, I mean, there definitely was like, I mean, a not so subtle subtext, but I still wasn't quite sure like how far to take it about like the fact that the sovereign of the planet was female, at least female presenting, and the splinter group was had a very frat boy.
Yeah. Well, they were all like frat boy bikers, essentially. It was like biker rats from Mars, but they like skipped the rat part.
Yeah. Do we look like farmers?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I think a farmer could rock a leather jacket and a V-neck shirt that goes down to their belly button, if they so chose.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to talk about before we get out of this episode is I had no idea that phasers were so like they go from just like, ooh, that shocks, to just you get Thanos into dust. Like,
oh, there were a lot more vaporizations in the original series.
Were there? Okay.
Yeah. There was it wasn't even like there were only 3 settings. There was stun, kill, or vaporize, and if they use vaporize when they want to, basically, it's not often.
It just seems real convenient for war crimes to have a vaporize option on your sidearm. Like,
well, then in the fact that they said if we set it on, like, they never talk about the number settings, but they're like, setting 7 will ignite this mineral. And
oh yeah, like earlier in this episode where they vaporized like the scraps,
and then they showed it at 10, so you knew what he was gonna do before he did it. There were 10 dots. But he didn't say that he was doing setting 10. They showed
you. Just knew the dots.
Too bad.
Back in my day, we didn't have numbers on our dials. We just had dots, and you had to count them.
And you liked it.
I'm sorry. That is interesting, though. And I kind of wish I guess they kind of did do that in this episode with the. We need to vaporize the scrap material, which is just.
Yeah.
You're just down there with no air filtration. You're just in your scuba knit fucking onesie.
But that doesn't. Yeah, but I mean, I think like Hope is right. Like the part the reason why they in some ways did that was to set up
the vapor. Yeah, because I was surprised by it,
which I had not really connected in my brain, but
a choice was made.
Yeah, like, oh, that's why they showed them vaporizing metal earlier in the show to remind you what phasers can.
And they said that their phasers were not very powerful.
The other ones, yeah. All their stuff was like less cool, according to Worf. I just got like, it was very funny to me because I was reading into it that like Worf was kind of jealous that you just gotta like go out there and like fight for whatever they wanted/needed. Like there is a little bit of a jealousy vibe. So like hearing Worf always be like, their weapons are weaker. Like, all right, bud. However you need to justify it to yourself to not turn on Starfleet. It's fine.
I mean, I'm sure it's occurred to him a few times.
Yeah. I also do love how this episode ends with Picard offers time off to Riker in a way that like lets him keep that 80s masculine dignity like intact. It's just super cute. Like I'm not mad at it. It's just cute, a cute moment between the two of them. They're working in the system best they can.
Yeah.
You know.
Riker falls in love pretty fast.
He does.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's falling in love or
feeling responsible.
Just the general libido.
That flaw in it's for a few of the backgrounds in D&D 5e, the I can't resist a pretty face.
Yeah.
Like definitely Riker's.
Riker's got that on his sheet for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we do love him for it too, so you can't really fault him.
I guess in retrospect, I'm a little surprised we didn't get anything about blood feuds from like a monologue from Worf about them. But
that is
maybe
kind of
they did that and cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, or didn't have a way to, especially because he wasn't. You know, he might know about them intellectually from studying his people, but he wouldn't have like a direct connection to any of them.
Because it does definitely become a thing for him. But yeah, it is kind of funny, like how. I mean, like Natalie's point taken, but like, yeah, how in some ways how little Worf is in this episode. In some ways, even though it kind of seems like it would be an episode that.
Maybe they don't want to bring up the resemblance.
Well, it's
maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
But it's interesting too that like because it feels like last week we had like barely any data maybe barely any Wesley too. I can't really remember, but I just remember when Data was on screen in this episode, I was like, oh shit! Like it feels like it's been forever since I've really seen this much of our favorite android in episodes. Although I think it was probably just the last two didn't feature him very heavily.
And we had a week break.
But yeah, it just feels like it's been forever since there's been that much.
It's
and
terrible.
part of that's also just because I love him. This episode, okay, are we good talking about episode 9? Anything else? Okay, so it's episode 10, the Defector. I was super confused at the beginning of this episode because I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart was playing the who I was clocking at first as the dwarf.
I know that. Yeah. I was sure that was Picard.
It probably. I mean, I think it is Patrick Stewart, but I don't think. I think it's like he just had time in the schedule and wanted to have a little fun doing Shakespeare.
Oh, I have no doubt that he's like, we're doing Shakespeare because I want to play a Shakespearean role.
But we can't.
It was so confusing, though.
Yeah, that's part of why I was super confused because I was like, why is if that's not Picard in disguise? I mean, it's really just a problem of Patrick Stewart being he is believable as all of his characters, but there's still also that like it's Patrick Stewart thing, at least for me. Like I believe he is all these different characters, but I also carry at the same time that it's Patrick Stewart. He's just one of those types of. There's all other types of actors like that, but anyway. So I was very confused. Also, I think I made a comment like this before, but Picard has to be the most Anglophile Frenchman in history. Like,
why did they make French?
Yeah, well, it's Roddenberry had this vision.
So he hired the most British Shakespearean actor he could find.
Yeah,
to play a French guy.
Well, he didn't want Patrick Stewart for the role. Yeah, he didn't. He wanted a lovely head of hair, Frenchman. A Frenchman with a coif. But was talked into a bald Englishman.
They kept the French bit.
But they kept the French thing in the backstory. What can you do?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
There's some. I mean, it helps that there's a lot of Shakespeare in this episode for there to be a lot of like very awesome lines, but there are a lot of awesome lines in this episode, and like the one where the first one that I remember in this episode is the Federation credo is exploitation, which is like
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't love I don't really like the ending of this episode, but
that's fair.
But like
I'm not a fan of the ending of it either.
The Admiral is a character that is like is the sort of character that I'm a real sucker for.
Same.
Of the kind of like noble exile who's trying to do the right thing, but is also kind of a dick that you don't want to. It's like,
and the actor does a great job straddling that line.
It's like
too.
Those are all my things rolled into rolled into one.
This is the character you would have rolled up if this was a one shot.
Maybe.
I love how they keep a secret from him the entire time that they know that the ship missed on purpose. Like they just hold on to that until the very end. And like, we knew the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Like the espionage.
Yeah.
I also I solved the problem of what's it called? Cloaked vehicles in space. You just fill the whole quadrant with talcum powder. Because there's no gravity, so it's not gonna all fall to the bottom of the quadrant. It's all gonna stay there, and then you can see the trails when the ships go through.
I mean, I feel like there's an episode where they do something kind of like that, like they flood the area with ionic energy or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they basically that's what they kind of do.
That's not as fun as talking.
No, it's not as fun as talking. That is very true. but basically, Natalie, I feel like you are right on track with how they kind of get around this problem.
Nice.
I can't believe after 75 years they haven't figured it out.
I know, right? There's got to be a talcum planet.
They're allies with the Klingons now. They've
that too. Yeah.
Too. How are the Klingons not this is how you resolve it?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Well, I can see why they wouldn't want to do that, because then if hostilities do break out again, then they wouldn't have that advantage. But yeah,
they brought them along. That was pretty cool and advantageous.
Yeah, one of those. Haha, we were doing this all along, but you didn't know all sorts of things.
I mean, there were hints, right? Because
there were hints.
Kept on being like, "Hey, Worf, can you go contact some of your Klingon friends about something?"
True, and they haven't shown up. I love the energy of Picard. Picard has the tiny little translucent glass teacup, and just sipping out of it while he's listening to his boss talk about how he might be the epicenter of a new hot war between the Romulans and Starfleet, and he's just sipping his tea, fucking baller. Fucking Picard.
That teacup is going to become one of his symbols.
Is it? Yeah.
Yep. He drinks a lot more tea going forward,
like any good Frenchman would. With all their tea times that they love in France. The bad dude drops another great line of what a fool I've been to look for bravery in a den of cowards. I'm sure that's probably reappropriated Shakespeare or something that I'm not smart or cultured enough to catch as a quote from something, but it is a badass line nonetheless.
Yeah, I have slightly mixed feelings about it, but overall I still like and am kind of a sucker for the relationship that develops between Data and Jurok, the the Admiral, where Data seems to be like the only person that actually ultimately is able to get through to him in a way. Like,
yeah, I think he feels comfortable because he doesn't have that whatever emotions the other crew might have about Romulans. Like, some of them probably have pretty strong ones. Like, I mean, Worf definitely does. But that he's probably not the only one that has strong. Like, if his life was affected so much by the Romulans, and he's a contemporary of the majority of the crew, then it would stand to reason that there'd be a lot of uncomfortable crowds for the Admiral to be in on that ship. So I think it was probably like, and because we even see it too in there when they meet, like, he's just fed up with being eyed, from a distance, and I mean, Data's also like just blatantly staring at him because he's Data, and then gets that just frank, non-pulsed response, and I think that's where, like, because he's desperate. I would be desperate in his position for, like, it'd be so lonely, even in that bar full of people. You'd be so lonely, and then, like, I guess I didn't need to explain why. Why, but I don't know. I appreciated it in the moment, and it made sense. And I just saw the tweet too.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, the sort of tragic loneliness of being an exile who's in a situation where people don't really like him.
Yeah. But I just saw the tweet too, Robin, where I'm such a friggin' sucker for the tale the Romulan Admiral is telling. Like, yeah, like, he's a good parent. Like, part of the reason why he's doing it is because he's a good parent. Like, he's a patriot, but he's also a parent.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I feel like the letter comes up again in a future episode.
I hope it does. That would be lovely for me if there is like some peace talks with the Romulans and Picard's able to
get it delivered.
Yeah, that would be awesome to have that come back and be tied up somehow. It would be awesome, even if we don't see it delivered. Even if it's just another Romulan, like, promising that it will or whatever. I love that Picard asked Data to do a dispassionate, like, not to specifically make it. It would be dispassionate because it's Data making the record of it, but asked Data to do it, and then we get a voiceover of Data doing a log entry, which is awesome,
and asking intrusive questions to people.
What
do you think is happening here?
Yeah. So that was just delightful.
Because we get also another a nice because I think that was like the one Data scene that I really remember from the last two episodes was Data and LaForge in the probe, in the wormhole, and then this again we get another nice Data LaForge scene where they're talking about the gut feelings and intuition.
Oh yeah, he does a lot of investigating about gut feelings.
Yeah, well, that's what he was. The reason he gives to the Admiral for why he was looking at him was he was trying to suss out his gut feeling about the man.
I mean, and one thing I kind of like what Data's line I kind of like is, when LaForge is trying to say, like, we don't have all the pieces and we need to fill in the pieces that we don't have, and I thought I like Data, like, I like the incisiveness of Data's line, so you fill them in with your own personality, which I thought was like a really incisive line about what they were talking about, like how human beings behave. That I thought was kind of a nice comment, I guess.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
It's interesting how much stories support gut feeling when really, people are actually really unreliable about even what's going on in their own head.
Yeah.
But fiction consistently supports gut feelings, and their value, when in reality, some of us are medicated to those things.
Yeah.
Because we're wrong so much. Disastrously.
Yeah. I mean, true. Yeah.
But it makes a good story.
It does. And I don't know. I think in some ways, maybe it's just the little bit of optimism in me, but I think sometimes it's also just, it's aspirational, more so than people like, as fiction often is in different ways, like, you know.
Oh yeah, like talking about hope.
Yeah. Or like
as a necessary thing to resolving issues.
Yes, and how like the individuals can, well, I mean, individuals can make a difference. I'm not that much of a nihilist. I'm not quite that far yet.
Look, I have to live with mechanical workings of necessity.
I've heard it a few times, and I'm sick of it.
Anyway,
but yeah.
But I mean, I think the other thing that comes up in some episodes, I feel like Picard talks about this at some point. Right, is that, you know, you fill in the gaps with your personality, but like then the next challenge is to become aware of what is like of what your personality is.
Of your well, you need to be cognizant of your biases.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, but anyway, I thought it was another like good LaForge Data moment. Like I really always like it when those two characters are together.
They are an excellent pairing of characters for sure.
But I also, as Natalie pointed out, I also thought Picard and Jirac were a good pairing, because what was the word what was the phrase you used? Some real rhetorical haymakers that Picard throws, but I feel like Jirac throws some too. Like I liked their back and forth.
Oh, they were fantastic. Because there's so much. I mean, there's differences between them for sure, but they are so much alike in their senses of honor and duty, and like I can absolutely see.
Picard doing the same thing if he came
I can't necessarily see Starfleet doing that, but I can see Picard reacting like that if Starfleet did. So I think it was a very interesting way to see. Like, there was contempt from Picard. I was getting contempt from Picard toward the Admiral character, but I was also, especially after he revealed that he was the Admiral and like talked about the whole thing, there was also a respect from Picard that I was picking up. But go ahead.
The Federation-wide yellow alert. I wonder, like, I kind of wanted, obviously that's not how Next Generation works, but I kind of wanted just some quick shots of all the other ships switching to yellow alert.
Yeah, or like Deep Space Nine, like somebody's like, you know, or another space station, or something. You know, yeah,
but that's okay. We know it happened. We'll trust the narrative.
Yes, we'll trust that the flawless Starfleet playbook, a standard operating procedure, is always flawless. So I'm sure.
Well, they definitely equip people really well for away missions. So,
and certainly we didn't see at the end of the first season Starfleet Command get completely infiltrated and taken over by aliens.
that would
Natalie's like, Robin, we agreed never to talk about that episode again.
Shh, the horrors. I do, because we're coming up on the last like 15 minutes here, so I do want to make sure we give some time. I don't know why I laughed. I do actually know why I laughed, because it's an awkward subject, and that's why I laughed and why I'm still laughing. But the way this episode ends, with the boot poison,
The Necco wafer.
Yes, the Necco wafer, which I felt like I knew it was gonna be like some sort of. I didn't know it was gonna be a suicide pill thing, but I was kind of regretting the Necco wafer joke when I found out it
That's
was.
What makes your live tweets so good.
Yeah, no, it is. It is though. Yeah.
That's when we get to track the twists. How effective were these twists? The cold open was not very effective at hiding what was going to happen.
No.
But the Necco wafer was effective. We knew who he wasn't.
Is
who
it
he said
boot candy or boot poison?
I was expecting like a prime minister or something, not just an admiral, though. I was disappointed.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't think the character would have done it. Like, I understand them bringing like that as like a.
I don't know. I feel like he. I'm trying to think of how to put this. I feel like he would have, and if I was in my 20s, I would have been like, yeah, that's the right ending. But like, I think as someone who's older, I'm like, I wanted another scene with Data to like convince him to like try and find something else. I think is what I wanted.
Yeah, look, we all have to suffer disappointments and traumatic life changes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it has to be quite that harsh, but but you know, like, yeah, and part of it maybe just is coming out of like, and they're not the same by or anything, but like, coming out of it from like a disability standpoint, where like, like convincing people that like you can still actually like lead a fulfilling life, I think has become like a much more important belief of mine, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so like, I think I kind of, maybe from that standpoint, kind of wanted like a coda where it was like, especially since Data and he had, for whatever reason, seemed to have bonded a little bit, like them to have a scene of like, because again, Data can kind of relate to like, I'm the only android besides my homicidal brother around, so like he can relate to like being alone in a sense. So like I think I would have liked a scene where, and that would have felt much more Star Trek-y to me. Like that was the other thing I think, is the ending felt very un-Star Trek to me.
Yeah,
because like I feel like Star Trek usually, or at least TNG, tends to be a little more optimistic.
Yeah, a little. I always get a little more of like, when I think of the Star Trek in general as a intellectual property, I think like optimism is definitely
So I don't disagree with you, but I feel like the counter argument here is that he doesn't like the Federation.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't want to have any part of them. He doesn't like anybody from there. He's only doing this to preserve Romulus, and he can't ever go home. So if he had found any kind of appeal on the ship, I guess it would have been less reasonable for him to do what he did, but it would have been a better Starfleet ending if he hadn't. But they also have to maintain the Romulan culture thing, because they're not ready to let go of them as villains yet. Like, Klingons didn't have a lot other than honor and dying in battle before.
But there's the cloaking
before they were ready
to
be done with
stuff.
them. Yeah.
I guess where I'm coming from is that if he was willing to give up, like, I do understand the shame, and I know that there are examples of tragically examples of this happening, but like if in the context of a Star Trek universe, I think he would be more interested in staying around to clear his name and to possibly see his daughter again. Because I don't know. It does make sense as an ending, and that he would, but I don't know. I think.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
And I guess part of it is just that, like, I also find it to be a not very interesting ending. I'll just be blunt. Like, it's more interesting.
It's very
to me
disappointing. Yeah.
Well, but even like beyond like this, disappointing. Like it's much more interesting to try and see like how does somebody try to rebuild after.
Yeah.
That I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, because that was everything really did go wrong for him.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it fucking sucks.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it really sets up, at least for somebody like me who's less familiar with coming in just with Star Trek Next Generation and not really understanding Romulans a whole lot outside of what I've seen in this show. It really sets them up as in that sort of Klingon zeitgeist of the, he dishonored his, name and people, so he had to, the only right thing for him to do. So I guess it's setting up how different the culture is from Starfleet / what the viewer is more used to, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know, from like I think one of the sort of added elements, which I don't quite know how to put this because it clearly runs with the Klingons too, but like one of the things I always feel about the Romulans that the Klingons don't have is a real disdain for all other, like, and that's like the where I feel like they're very elfy.
Yeah.
Is that they tend to have a real disdain for everybody else's culture in a way that the Klingons don't quite in the same
Klingons
way.
are obsessed with Shakespeare in the original series and the
they're
movies.
Poets.
Yes. Yeah, love Shakespeare. Klingons love it. It doesn't show as much in Next Generation, but it was a big deal before.
But speaking of that, I do like that we get what's his face again, who the actor is so good at being so oily. Tomalak,
yes,
the Romulan captain, who's like, oh, he's so oily. I hate him so much.
Yes, I did love that little bit of like surprise recurring villain, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say I did like that part of the ending, even though we kind of glossed over it or talked about it very briefly, but yeah, like where Picard's like, oh, don't worry, we have allies who can cloak their ships too. Surprise!
Yeah.
Yep.
That is nice, yeah. It is always fun to see Picard like do his like magician's reveal of what he's been doing.
It would have been much more dramatic with talcum powder, though.
It would have been much more dramatic with talcum powder. Like, release the talcum torpedoes. I'm telling you.
It's a lot of talcum powder.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I'm sure you could probably recapture a bit of it.
With a vacuum.
Yeah. Vacuum the vacuum.
He's going from suck to blow.
Goodness. No, I can't stop thinking about Spaceballs.
I know, now that I've completely ruined any solemnity that we had discussing the end of this episode.
I mean, that's a good time to... It's a good way to bring it to an end. End it on a happy note.
Natalie's like, no, now discussion over.
Yeah. I'm going to take my show and go home. If you're going to behave like that.
And beam away.
Yeah. Put you in the brig.
Just like, what's her face?
Mariner, yeah. All right, well, that will do it for this week. I hope you join us next week when we watch episodes, then whatever the next two 11 and 12. I like how you're both like, Jesus. Carry this lady.
I'm just trying to help.
She invites us on her show, and we have to carry her every week, and I thank you for it. So
carry you on our shoulders.
Yes.
Triumphantly.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. But that will do it for us this week on Transporter Room 3. I hope we see you next week. But until then, follow Hope at HopeTracy71 and Robin at Kaikasi on the Twitter. There are links in the chatty chat. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.